Hello, I'm Lee. Welcome to this Sunday stream. I am a hypnotist and I talk about hypnosis related things. It's so funny to me that there are people who think that hypnosis in general is absolutely worthless or not a real thing. And it seems funny, but maybe it's a question of definition. I'm not sure. Hear me out. So perhaps the things that we think of as trance states, and I don't know if I do call it trance. I don't think it's necessary to go into trance to be hypnotized. And by that, I mean, you can accept suggestions. I think hypnosis is the act of accepting suggestions, but usually I add in a maybe more heightened way. So we can accept suggestions anytime, but maybe there are times when we are more susceptible than others. So our ability to go into trance, to accept suggestions, to be hypnotized, is better in some instances than others. And hello, thanks for being here. So what does that mean, that you don't have to be in trance to be hypnotized? Well, so it's an interesting thing because a lot of people seem to think that the state itself, that the state of trance itself, will make somebody more suggestible. And I feel like there have been sort of studies done on suggestibility and how somebody might accept a suggestion and what they might do about it. Hi, Roman. There might be different ways that people can find themselves doing those things, but I like to call them altered states. And I think that if you can get to one, you can get to another. I think that the state of trance, as some people might call it, is absolutely fascinating for the implications, if nothing else. So if we talk about trance, a lot of people, even if we didn't talk about hypnosis, if we talked about a state of trance, a lot of people might think of that as like the zombie state, right? Like that might be the state where you could be controlled and you might not be aware of what's going on. At the very least, you might not be aware of what's going on, if maybe not completely while you're in the middle of it, and then maybe after it, you would be like, I don't know what happened. But it's not the same thing as being conscious, is it? But there are also ways of getting people to, without formal inductions into trance. Thank you very much, Jonathan. It's been pretty good so far, and it's getting better right now, I think. So if you are interested in changing something inside yourself, right? You can obviously, I say obviously, but it's obvious to me, you can talk to your unconscious, or I could talk to someone's unconscious, and get it to adjust behavior, whether that's the pattern of something that you find yourself doing, or if it's a completely different way of acting. Your unconscious mind is in charge of setting up shortcuts so that you do certain things based on how you have done certain things, based on how useful they were to you at any given moment earlier in your life. And sometimes those patterns or those shortcuts stop being as valuable to us, but we still keep doing them because we don't have any other instructions or suggestions to not do those things. And then sometimes so for example, in NLP, it's really, really common to basically ask somebody a question. I'd like you to remember this point in time, or I'd like you to think about this situation that you've described. And because you have to sort of go into your own brain to think about what happened and what that means and what your response was, and maybe then to make some additional changes. So we're already accessing a slightly different spot, a different state, but it's not quite like the state of trance that we tend to assimilate into hypnosis all in one big thing. So we think, oh, it needs to be this formal. I'm going to do a pre-talk where I give all this information to the brain, and then when I do the induction and then I give the suggestions, or you can add some deepener in there if you want to, that everything comes together. So you don't have to be quite so formal about it. So you can absolutely do more informal hypnosis with somebody who is in a conscious state. Now, I'm pretty sure I talked about how I'd been rewatching, and then for some of them just watching, The Mentalist, because I like the idea that somebody who is good at reading people and good at distraction, honestly, so there's a magic technique, which is, sleight of hand type stuff. One of my favorite things, the one that always stands out, is he's going onto this scene and a security guard comes up to talk to him and he just waves his hands, kind of like that. And then he just asks the guy the questions. I don't remember if he kept his hand up or not. But he does things like that all the time, the main character. And it's just enough of a distraction, which we in hypnosis would sometimes call bypassing the critical factor. So there's a part of your conscious self which has been surprised. It was not expecting you to do what you did. And because it was not expecting that, there's a brief shining window of openness, right? And then you could discover that the person, if you did that and somebody responded, that they are then more open, whether it's unconsciously or consciously, I don't know, to answering your questions. A lot of time in that particular show, it looks like the people that he's talking to aren't even completely aware. They talk about hypnosis a lot in the earlier shows and about how you're not supposed to do it. But I think that the act of simply asking somebody a question that they weren't expecting after you have given them some sort of weird hand gesture or something else that distracts their attention for a moment is really fascinating. The idea that you could do this in a 30-second, 15-second blip of time, and you get information. He's eliciting information from them. But you could also, ask somebody questions about themselves that would cause them to have, perhaps a trance-like state going on. Again, trance is not necessary for someone to accept suggestions, but maybe it's helpful. I don't know. What I discovered about working on the tone of my voice is that, so when I started doing hypnosis, I wasn't much of a talker. I would talk, but I didn't talk as much as I do now. And talking repeatedly helps me keep talking. And the more I do hypnosis, the more my voice just changes on its own. I have never practiced my voice or worked on my voice. I simply talk. And if you listen to some of my audios, you can tell that in the beginning, I probably sound, so it's kind of weird. It's a little bit better in the whisper room, but I made a recording studio. It was very short. It was probably 3 feet tall. I made it out of some really heavy duty cardboard boxes. It was a septagon. Don't ask me how I came up with that shape. It's just what fit. It was lined with acoustic foam. It had a little door. It had a little push light. And it would, like this, get pretty warm. But I would go in there and record, and it was pretty good. But I would still get nervous when I started doing those things. So the quality of my voice when I start doing a thing is not the same as when I really get into doing a thing. There's definitely a sense of pattern or rhythm or cadence that you get. But I feel it's more a natural type of thing. I am certainly not out there going, now I'm going to turn on my hypnosis voice, whatever that happens to be. My voice is a little scratchy today, I guess. So But I think that oh, my whole setup has gotten weird. Don't mind the crookedness. I think it's actually still a little crooked, but whatever. So I don't really work on my voice, and it just happens. It doesn't change during the course of different audios because of if I'm feeling nervous at the beginning, if I start and stop, if I'm doing a whole bunch of things in a row. This is a pro mic. This mic is brand new and fine. I have a Shure. I would show it to you, but it's like, here, let's see. This is my new mic. It is a fine mic. I have had so many, I can't even tell you, and this is probably the best one that I have had. I used to, this is going to be noisy while I adjust, but it was mostly trash because I just moved a bunch of stuff and I think it got bumped. So I could be closer to it, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's my camera. It feels to me like it might be wobbly one way or the other because the monitor has arms. I am streaming with that. That's what I'm using right now to stream with. That is what I'm using. It is the only microphone I have hooked up. Although I will absolutely say that I am not a sound engineer. I'm not a sound engineer. I do have a lovely little Rodecaster Pro mixing board thing here that my sound is going through, so everything should be fine. I don't know why it wouldn't or would be, so, but it is here, it is working, so. Anyway, so that is the mic that I'm using. And I can't tell you anything other than that because it just is, it shows it in my mixer. Like, I use OBS to stream to YouTube, and that's what is working. Well, look, you want to come to my house and set things up, you are welcome to. I am definitely one of those people that like moves around a lot, and I'm only so good with all of these things. So, and I definitely keep upgrading the mic. So before this, I had a couple of different Rode and then a couple of different Zoom mics, but this one I think is the clearest, best one I've had so far. So anyway, it's possible that there are some challenges between the softwares. They're meant to work together, but like my stream's bitrate is always too high. And it only tells you that, of course, when you're in the middle of streaming. So it's like, we recommend, and that's all I can see. And then it's like, open this widget. And I'm probably not going to be doing on-air tech support for my systems while I'm streaming. So anyway, I'm going to go back to Hypnosis. I'm so sorry if you hate the sound of my mic. There are definitely, so this Whisper Room is a single wall. It only cuts out so much noise. The microphone is, near me, but it too only picks up me, but it will also pick up other things around me. So it definitely can be challenging if you are I'm a sound Luddite. And I say this because you'll probably hate this, but the sound quality almost doesn't bother me. Like, my brain just, like, it has to be really bad or really loud. Like, my definition of really is probably not the same as yours, but it has to be really bad or really loud, scratchy in order for me to pay any attention to it. Like, I'd have to, like, my unconscious mind is very good at filtering out extraneous stuff and very good at focusing in on what the message is for the most part. So I hope that it doesn't distract you too much. Anyway, all right, so trance states. How much do you need to go into a state of trance? How much can your brain simply pick up an idea? Can you, or answer a question? Can you go inside your head? I'm not sure exactly how I feel about eye accessing cues. So they show these some of the times. They show these sometimes, like if you like read up on NLP stuff, but eye accessing cues are supposed to be when you ask someone a question about something that they don't have to think about, like what's your name, right? And then you ask them a question about something that they are going to remember, but it's true. And then you ask them a question, and then they make up a thing. And your eyes go in different directions when you ask questions. And it's supposed to be, you know, are they making up a thing? Are they telling the truth? Is this a memory that really happened? And I think it's super fascinating the way that some people put a lot of emphasis on that, because you can't always tell if somebody is going to be making something up. So I'm not using a script. And a lot of times when I want to think about what I'm going to be saying, my brain pauses for a moment, but on a conscious level, I have no idea, right? I have no idea where I'm looking or what I'm doing. I might look down. I feel like that might be a thing. But the idea that your eyes can tell you about what your state of mind is, i.e., I'm making up something or I'm telling the truth about something, is really fascinating. And it's especially fascinating for me because it's pretty established. It may change, who knows, but it's pretty established that the more we try to examine and delve into any specific memory, unless we're one of those people who has like top-notch memory, and sometimes even then, every time we access a memory, we change it in some way. So it might be subtle, right? It might be the kind of thing where somebody's asking you to remember and you're like, oh yeah, I met them at this party. But maybe it wasn't really a party. Maybe it was like a gallery or some kind of restaurant or, you know, something. But every time you access it, like what you're remembering maybe is that, oh, there was a whole bunch of other people around, or maybe there was some art on the walls, or something along those lines. You don't really, you know, always remember things exactly. Maybe you remember a blue shirt, but you're not sure if it was like checked or pinstriped or solid or had a pattern, because the more you find yourself trying to think about these things, the more your unconscious mind may or may not be sure. Sometimes you can get really, really clear about things when you bring in sense of smell, sometimes taste, but smell is really powerful and for some people in bringing back a memory for them. I have yet to have that experience where a smell like just brings me whole hog back to some other time and place. But for some people, it seems to be a pretty common, regular occurrence for them. So, let's see, what else? So somebody asked me today, they couldn't be here, and they asked me if I would talk about layered triggers. And I said, I don't know what you mean, because usually, even if I give somebody a whole bunch of triggers, they don't necessarily go together. Like, you could use them together, but they're not dependent upon one another in the way that I think a layered trigger might be. But we can certainly talk about triggers more if you'd like, and if we have any, or if you have any that you might like us to do a thing, we can also discuss that. Yeah, when you give someone access to a memory, it gives you a chance to manipulate it. That's true, which is one reason why I think they call it now forensic hypnosis. Can be challenging in the wrong hands, because somebody may not even know that they are leading somebody to a certain specific outcome. And that's, I believe, how the whole satanic panic thing from the 80s came about, when they were putting children under hypnosis and asking them things like, what did the man who did these terrible things to you look like, for example? And then you're just making all sorts of presumptions about that it was a man and that terrible things happened and. Yeah. It could be, yeah, and I mean, it's crazy when you think about that, because in my opinion, the police, that type of thing, they should be wanting to find out the truth, right? Like, they should be wanting to get to who the actual murderer was, or, who was the one that really stole the money, or whatever else it happens to be. And I don't know that those are the things that always happen, because sometimes, people are like, oh, we've caught the person who did the thing, and then they just build all the circumstantial evidence around that to point in that direction. Whether or not that's true. I don't know if any of you are watching or were watching any of the Rust court happenings, but the armorer, there was a movie, Alec Baldwin fired a live round at somebody, they died, somebody else got hurt. The armorer, that's the person responsible for the guns and ammo, was convicted to like 18 months. And then Baldwin had to go to court recently, and it was thrown out because somebody in the prosecutor's office had received information about a supply of ammunition that may or may not have been that might have been the live rounds that was delivered accidentally, who knows. But it was like they didn't actually share it with the defense team. So the judge made it a mistrial, threw it out. They can't bring the case against him again. And the armorer her lawyer is definitely going to be appealing based on that information, and she may go free too. So things happen, and you can hide information, and you can adjust information, and so sometimes people are in jail. And I have no idea about this case. Like, I have no idea her actual complicitness in somebody having a live round of ammunition in a gun that killed somebody. But these are just like the things that have filtered through to me about this. So the idea that, they know a thing and they're going to go with it, and they're going to discard information that doesn't fit their narrative and they just go with it, it fascinates me. But I think that even if it's unsatisfying, having the truth or having the correct understanding of what happened is important. Anyway, hey Matt, how are you doing? So, all right. I've definitely wandered here or there. So I don't know if you noticed, Roman, if my voice actually has changed from the beginning of this broadcast to now. Because at some point in time, I do get on a rhythm about what I'm saying or how I'm saying something, and it definitely makes a difference. So fractionation absolutely is good for bringing somebody into a deeper state of trance, whatever that means to you. So maybe deeper means less and less conscious. And the the idea of fractionation, it brings you up and then it drops you down. And I certainly use that, and I love it, because a lot of people, like in the recreational hypnosis world, people really like the idea that you are going to be able to experience something that is not your normal state of being, right? It's really helpful to have that similar state of being at times, and so people are like, there was this time I was just so deeply entranced, I was so out of it, felt so good. So we, as hypnotists and as purveyor or listeners, have gotten to the point where hypnosis feels good, and the more depth of trance you have, the more deeper in hypnosis you are, the better it feels. And so a lot of people have, like, even if we don't say that, for a lot of people, hypnosis is a really powerfully good feeling activity. So their brain just craves that and they want it. They want to go super deep. I don't know if fractionation is necessarily the deepest form that there is. There is something called the Esdaile state, which was developed by, I think it was James Esdaile. He was a Scottish doctor working in India. He could not often talk to his patients. He did a lot of tumor removals. He did a lot of major surgeries. And I have his book. It's fascinating. It was basically from a bunch of series of letters that he wrote to his brother back in Scotland. And he has like categorizations of what types of surgeries he did. And he talks about the process that they used. And this is what he has to say about the Esdaile state, and this is how they put patients in there. I'll talk about how they put patients in there first. So they would have patients lie down on like a table or a slab or something, and then he or his assistants would wave branches up and down their body until they fell into a state that was, they would do it, and then they would come back and check, and they would use that state to do major surgery in. And what they discovered is that people would go into an incredibly deep state of trance where they would not feel pain. And I missed this point, and so I want to go back and reiterate that they did this because they often couldn't speak the same language. India has, and I think still does have, a caste system where people speak different languages, essentially, even though because they're from different regions, and it can be really challenging for somebody who, say, speaks Scottish to communicate with somebody who is speaking maybe Hindi or some version of English Hindi that might have, but anyway, so they weren't talking about about what was going to happen. They would just wave these branches over them. They would come and check, and when they were ready, when the state that they had been in was extreme enough so that they could do surgery without causing any pain, like they would cut into people, they would remove things, they would adjust things, and the people would heal fast, so they wouldn't feel pain, they would heal faster, and they had, I believe, also less scarring for a lot of them. So without instruction, the Esdaile state allows people to go into a place in their mind which is incredibly beneficial for, let's just say, the healing arts, including having surgery done. Esdaile is that. So, it is absolutely fascinating for me to think about that state. And so you can get people into that state. And you don't have to fractionate, but fractionation is a good way to get there. And they drop down so deeply. So when I do that with people, I've only done it a few times because it's useful for car trips to or from the airport. That's usually how I use it for recreational purposes. The body is pretty much malleable, like just ragdoll. Like they could. I usually put in instructions that they can still pay attention to the sound of my voice when I'm talking to them. If it's important, they can come out of it, and I give them instructions on coming out of it faster because it can take a while. Some of the people that Esdaile operated on would be there for quite some time, maybe sometimes a day or two, while their body was in this state of whatever you want to call it. And in reference to the earlier part when I was talking about trance, is it a state of trance? I mean, it's certainly an altered state because most of the time, if you're going to be poking people with needles or you're going to be cutting into someone's skin, they're going to notice it. They're going to feel it. They may or may not heal well. But apparently the people that had these things happen to them when they were in that state did remarkable things. There are more stories about that. It's been a while since I've read the book, but those are some of the things that I remember most clearly about it. I think that he had another patient who came back for something else, like maybe maybe she had a tumor and it came back or something, I don't know. But she saw him a second time, and I think that she didn't quite get into that state And I don't think it went quite as well for her. But by and large, the patients that he operated on, were in such a deep state. It's such a weird way of talking about things because it's a nice shorthand, but there are a lot of people out there who do scientific research into hypnosis, and I don't think they maybe are actual hypnotists or great subjects, and I feel like what they study is not always reflected in the way that people who play around with hypnosis recreationally, say, can make happen with a little bit of effort. I don't know. I have not done an Esdaile hypnosis file, so. And I think about doing, an Esdaile hypnosis file. I think about doing it, but then I'm like, like, what would be the point? I guess I have done like custom type files for people who are going into like the dentist, and I've done needle, getting rid of fear of needles with people using like catalepsy, and I usually, if I'm going to do some kind of needle play with people who have a fear of needles, I'll tell you how I do those types of things. I do a handshake induction, like an element handshake induction, so that their hand feels numb, which I'm absolutely fascinated by. You can pinch the hand and they just can't feel it. And then I play around with the needles of different gauges through their skin. I have them watch it. I show the needle. I talk about the needle because they're all like hollow point sterile needles, and we get rid of their fear by them seeing what it can be like, and then them also being able to give themselves a trigger for numbness at, say, the site of any injection, which I think is fun. I guess, what are you going to use it for? You're just going to hang out in the Esdaile state until you decide to come back up? You could do that. I'm not sure most people have, a day to really be there. But, oh, yeah, loud noises don't set them off, so you can, like, clap right next to their ear, or, fireworks or whatever. Reposition them. Again, no pain. So it's absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure how practical it is. Like, I feel like it's very practical. Yes, isn't that great? There's a lot of things you can do for women who are going to be giving birth, both, in terms of the calm, also in terms of the pain. I get migraines. I'm a fan of taking appropriate drugs. I was thinking about that. So Florida is having a big referendum on marijuana, right? So right now, medical marijuana is allowed, and they're everywhere down here. But recreational marijuana is on the ballot. They came around months and months and months ago and asked people to sign petitions. They got it put on the ballot overwhelmingly, and now the governor is having some. He doesn't think we should have recreational marijuana down here. I don't care. I don't smoke. My brain is better when I like things that sharpen your mind as opposed to dulling feelings and sensations. But I don't take a lot of drugs, so maybe more is the pity. Who knows? Except for the migraines. I take those regularly. So, yeah, I think, so for dentistry, so Ellman, he developed the Ellman induction. He devised this thing using fractionation, by the way. I've talked about it a whole bunch of times. It is great because it allows most people, it incorporates your vision, your hearing, and your sense of touch, and the kinesthetic system in your body, and it allows you, as you cycle through those things, to drop deeply into a state where you don't have to feel pain at the dentist, and you could be in your own little happy space, and your mouth could be open really wide. I've definitely used self-hypnosis at the dentist to make myself, I had a tooth extracted, and so I had my wisdom teeth extracted, and then I had to have one more tooth extracted. And when I had that last tooth extracted, it was like 4-hour procedure, and the dentist that was doing it was like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody be able to have their and I have a tiny mouth. She was like, I don't think I've ever seen somebody be able to keep their mouth open so calmly for the period of time that they needed to be digging in there. It was absolutely terrible. I mean, looking back, it wasn't that bad because like my brain just was like, okay, we're going to be calm about this whole thing. And they did give me plenty of, I don't know what kind of drugs they gave me, because I also, some of them wear off on me, or they don't make me feel good, so. Yeah, you can always turn the pain down. Pain is one of those things that human beings are really attuned to being able to amp up or tune down. And I think that's a really good skill to learn. We can, maybe we could do that today, I don't know, as part of our thing, to be able to allow your brain to know that you can actually turn the pain response down. So one of the fascinating things about it is that people with chronic pain sometimes try to use hypnosis in a way to get rid of all the pain, right? But pain is actually a healthy body response that we have, and if you turn off all the pain in your body permanently, or if you tried to, you might miss something that was happening that's important for you to know about. Like sometimes you could cut somebody or you could nick something, and you don't want to bleed to death because you were like, oh, I don't feel any pain. Yes, that's right. So this was probably about, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. I am at a pumpkin carving contest, so it's fall. And I have a set of ill-advised wood chisels, and carving my pumpkin, it's going fine until it didn't, and it slipped, and I cut myself right here. So I cut into the nerve, and how do I know that? Because my finger was like numb and slightly tingly all at the same time. So it's kind of strange, but I did some self-hypnosis on myself, and I'm like clenching my hand, and it's got, Band-Aids in there, and I'm desperately trying to be non-obnoxious about it. But I'm just like turning down the pain that I was feeling as much as I possibly could. And so, throughout all the cleaning and all the initial bandaging, the pain was actually pretty minimal. When I had to go get stitches for it, which was the next day, they didn't have to give me anything. It barely hurt because I was doing the same thing there. I have another thing that I could make a little video on, but it's almost better to do it with somebody else. And it's another friend of mine who's a hypnotist showed it to me, and it's a way to get somebody out of a shock or pain response. She did it to me, so I'm telling all the stories today. I don't have a lot of stories, so I was having a hypnosis party, and this was almost 10 years ago. I'm having a hypnosis weekend party at the house I'm staying in. And I'm up in the attic, and I take a step, and I went through the drywall of the ceiling below. There was something over it. I thought it was solid. There was nothing over it. I went down. I did not fall to the floor below. I just fell down to like my hip. And I was kind of shaken. So my friend came over, and she did this thing where she's it does the same sort of thing for pain or shock, where you have to activate both sides of your brain, and you sing, and you are following going from side to side with your brain, and you think about what your pain level is when you start it, and then after you do these things a couple times, you see what your level of pain is then. And usually it's like dropped dramatically. But it's good for people who are in shock to focus on, sort of think about how they feel, and then to realize what it feels like when that's over. And so you're right, Paul. I think that some of that is an over-exaggeration because we're just not used to, Jesus heck, what just happened? And so like all of us is in a little heightened state. So you have to like calm that down a bit and see what happens. So I do not know how the pumpkin turned out. I left the party and the pumpkins, and I never went back to see the results of what happened. I know that I wasn't finished, so there are probably better tools that I could have gotten, less sturdy tools, let's say, than a wood chisel. Although it worked really, really well for what I was doing until I slipped. So, anyway, hypnosis is great for pain, and I highly recommend it. And if I can find somebody to partner with, I will show that pain shock type thing at some point in time. It's pretty good at getting rid of headaches. I've used it for a couple of other things for people that are sort of slightly on the emergency end of things. And I know that it worked well for me for bringing me back from the holy cow, I just fell through a ceiling and I've hurt myself, to being, oh, I feel much better. I mean, I did black and blue my leg up pretty spectacularly, but whatever, it's fine. Everything's fine. So, all right. So, we've talked about a bazillion different things today. What kind of hypnosis would you like to do? What kind of hypnosis are you guys interested in doing? If you just want me to keep talking about something else, I will do that too. But I would be happy to actually do some hypnosis. And we can go from there, if you're interested. I'll drink some water while you guys think about that for a sec. I mean, I'm open to recreational, lightly erotic stuff, non-erotic stuff, non-recreational stuff. We can do definitely some fractionation. It takes a while to get into Esdaile. That is one thing about it. So, like when they were doing that with the patients, sometimes it would take like, 45 minutes of that, and then they'd come back and they'd check and they'd go back and do it again. So it can take a while to do those types of things. But fractionation does work really well. Okay. So let's see what happens. Ooh, that sounds dreadful. Yeah, that sounds dreadful that you had to manage the pain. And distraction isn't helpful, right? We get distracted by enough things. Sometimes distraction can get you out of whatever you're feeling, but if it is the biggest thing in the room, to get rid of that, it can be a challenge. So, all right, so let's do some kind of fractionation leading to deep, deep states of trance, for as much or as little as that is an actual real thing. So go ahead and close your eyes. If you close your eyes, what do you see when you close your eyes? If I were to close my eyes right now, I have a monitor and some other light effects in front of me. So what do I see? I see like You know how if you look out at the sea, you see the sea, you know, the sky and the sea and maybe the sand? It kind of feels like I have some remnants like that in my eyes when they're closed of um, all the light effects. But I wonder if you find yourself in that state of closing your eyes, if you know that you could, when I count to 3 and say now, you could open your eyes and then allow what you take in to simply wipe out what was there before, and then for you to find yourself sliding into trance. Do you know how to slide into trance? Do you know that basically you can just allow your conscious self to slip away? You can allow your unconscious self to come a little bit closer. You can notice that it's easy for your ears to hear what I'm saying and to let other sounds and noises go because they are not important right now. If something happened and there was an emergency and you heard the fire alarm, you would still hear that, you would still respond appropriately. But otherwise, things are not important. You can hear the words that I'm saying. The sound of my voice may impact your conscious self, but your conscious self might even hear the sound of my voice getting quieter and quieter as you find yourself more and more in a state of less than conscious. So when you open your eyes, you can open and shut them right away. 1, 2, 3 now, open, shut. And then you'll notice again you have those little remnants, those artifacts of light, and maybe they look a little different than they did before. Mine certainly do. But you can find that every time you do this, your eyes are going to open and close. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 now again, and you're going to do that over and over and over again. And at some point in time, a few things might happen to you. 1, 2, 3 now, open and close. That your brain may get to the point where your eyes just feel heavy and it feels better to keep them shut. You may find yourself effortlessly sliding into a deep sleep, into a deep state of trance, into this place that feels really good. And you don't really want to change it. But why? I'm making you open your eyes 1, 2, 3 now and shut down deeper and deeper. Why do I do that? Because when you go into trance and you come out of it, when you come out of it, you are still slightly more in trance than you were when we started. And you keep going more deeply into trance than you were when you go back. So 1, 2, 3 now, and feel the way that your eyes pick up things and then let things go, and you drop down more deeply into trance. Now you can notice that there may be other things that you can find yourself doing. I'm a huge fan of ideomotor responses and arm raising. So if you haven't already, and why would you have, but you might have just automatically done this, go ahead and allow your hands to be either on your lap or on a surface that separates them and allows them to move independently of one another. And whether you find yourself making some kind of grand gesture, 1, 2, 3 now, or whether you find yourself simply feeling like little muscle twitches or tingles in your hands or anywhere else, honestly, go ahead and allow yourself to feel those things and to notice that they get better and better. But I'm going to ask you to begin to, as you slide more powerfully into a hypnotic state, to let your unconscious mind make one of your arms and hands feel lighter and lighter. And as that arm and that hand begin to feel lighter and lighter, you may feel, if you've never done this before, it may feel very strange for you, because you may discover that one of your hands and arms, and I don't know which one it's going to be. For me, it always starts with my fingers, or maybe it starts with a palm and the palm starts rising off of my legs. I don't know. 1, 2, 3 now. You discover that it feels a little weird as it lifts. It feels a little bit weird because maybe your muscles are moving so slowly that you can just feel these twinges. Now, I was going back and forth between, is it going to be my right hand or my left hand? Because I never know. And both of mine are actually kind of lifting up. I notice it more when I take a breath in or when I shrug my shoulders and my hands lift up a little bit more. So for me, somehow today, it's both of my hands. My palms are rising off my legs. 1, 2, 3 now. And as you find yourself in that state of repeating opening and closing your eyes when I say 1, 2, 3 now, and as one of your hands and arms is beginning to, or maybe both of them, rise up, or maybe you're just feeling those twinges, Maybe you're simply feeling those little muscle twinges or tingles that are allowing your unconscious mind to tell you, hey, I'm doing a thing here. I'm paying attention to what Lee's saying. I'm doing this thing. I'm allowing your hands and arms to feel lighter and lighter and to begin to move up into the air. If you are already way beyond this, if your hands and arms or your fingers are already stretching, reaching for the ceiling, congratulations, because that's awesome. But just go ahead and notice that when your fingers and hands and arms stretch as they reach for the ceiling, you can drop even deeper into trance, right? You can drop even deeper into trance as you find yourself doing this. I can feel both of my hands and arms are lifting up at about the same speed. This is fascinating for me. Usually it takes me a long time, but I haven't really tried to do this on myself in a while, so it seems to be going pretty well. But the hairs on my arms are definitely feeling fascinating, like something is brushing against them as I rise up. Oh, that hand just touched the mic. Sorry about that. But however you, 1, 2, 3 now, however you find yourself letting your hands move, however you find your unconscious mind paying attention to the things that I'm saying and responding to that, whether those are twitches, whether those are your arms rising up, let your unconscious mind know that it is clearing out more space inside your mind for you to find yourself drop deeply into trance 2, for you to go into 1, 2, 3 now, for you to find yourself going into a deep state of trance, more powerful than you've ever experienced, and just allow that to happen. Allow your unconscious mind to feel what that's like as you let that happen, as your hands and arms, your fingers, whatever happens, reach for the ceiling as you drop more deeply into trance. Or maybe you just find yourself moving your fingers and twitching and raising them. If you're not sure what your hands are doing and they're definitely not raised up in the air, go ahead and tilt your head down so that the next time you open your eyes, 1, 2, 3 now, you can look at your fingers and see if they are moving or twitching or if your finger is raised up. Allow yourself to do this as well as you possibly can. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to count to 3 again, and the next time I do that, allow your hands and your arms to fall down onto your lap or back to where they were. Do not hurt yourself. Be as gentle as you possibly can with that. And then let your unconscious mind, as it clears out more and more space in your brain, in the universe inside your head, and that infinite space there, to go to some place new that it is for you, more deeply into a state of hypnotic trance or into hypnosis than you ever have before. Just let that happen. 1, 2, 3 now. Open and close your eyes. Let your hands and arms drop down. I'm feeling a blood rush on my arms because they were up for a while I was talking. You may experience that same thing or something very different. Let your unconscious mind think about how good it feels to pay attention and to make the things happen. Because even if you're only listening to what I'm telling you to do now, if you find that you really want to get into hypnosis, if you find that you really want to do things hypnotically to make changes in your life, the best way to do that is for your unconscious mind to realize that it is being paid attention to, that it is doing a good job. Your unconscious mind is doing a good job. Thank it for what it's doing. You don't have to pat yourself on the head like I do, but I definitely do that. I say, good brain. And then you can let yourself sink and drop down deeper and deeper. Now, if you need to come up at any point in the next, say, 5 or 10 minutes, you are welcome to do so when I count up. If you would like to stay deeply into trance after this session is over, and you would like to at some point in time come up when you have to, your unconscious mind can think about what it is that you're supposed to be doing today and when that might be, and discover how much time you have to do that. And then when I count from 1 to 10, you can let yourself slide even deeper into trance, knowing that you can just wake up when you're ready to make those other things in your life happen. However, you can notice right now how deeply in trance you are. And your unconscious mind can think of a trigger word or phrase that you like, that you want to be able to use to bring yourself right back to this state. So your unconscious mind can think something like, the next time it is safe and appropriate for me to do so, when I say this phrase, or whatever phrase you want there, I'm going to come right back to this state, and then I'm going to start going even more deeply into trance. Whether you do that for self-hypnosis, whether you just want to be in that state, however it feels, let your unconscious mind make that choice now which one you want to do. And if you don't want to do any of those things, it's totally fine. But on the count of 10, find yourself coming up all the way wide awake, feeling really, really great. Letting go of fears and concerns and worries, knowing that if you have something to do, you can do it easily and effortlessly, quickly, wonderfully, and that you can just feel so good. So wide awake on 10 or deeper into trance on 10, it's your choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Go ahead and open up your eyes. 8, take a nice deep breath in. 9, move around a little bit. And 10, wide awake. So hold on to what that's like and how good it feels. Hold on to how good it feels to be back. Let me know if you're back. If you're not back, make sure you come back when you have to. One of these days I'm going to figure out how to set ads up so that they play at the beginning while I'm talking about less important stuff and not in the middle of trance. But I have not done that yet. It feels good to go deeply in trance, doesn't it? I'm enjoying this, even if I'm talking in the middle of trance. There's apparently a cult leader who owns a company, and they go into trance and they talk about some stuff. Yeah, it does. My voice definitely does change, but I'm not doing it on purpose. It just happens. So, anyway, there's this cult leader, and she owns a company, but she's also in this cult, and she makes videos. Well, so we should probably talk someday about what happens if you get interrupted in the middle, because it's just another form of fractionation. I only do that with very special people. I would never do it with anyone who might possibly come across this. So I sometimes do. I should have addressed the ads, though. I should have addressed the ads, because just consider it another form of fractionation. It's not the sound of my voice. You can kind of block it out. You just don't hear me for a little while. And then when I come back, it's like, did you come up? Then you drop down again. Anyway, I'll try to address that next time, just to be safe. I have somebody that I do hypnosis with, and one day I think they were being a little bratty, and I froze them for 45 minutes. That's probably about the cruelest. I wasn't talking to them for that time. I just let them go. I could be wrong. I may have taunted them for once or twice. But I wouldn't normally just leave a group of people like that. So one rule about hypnosis, especially for hypnotists, but also for subjects, is use what you've got. So if somebody was, this is the example that stuck in my head. Someone was doing hypnosis with somebody. They were taking them down the steps, and all of a sudden they were laughing because they were kittens playing on the stairs, and they started laughing, and the hypnotist got distracted. Hypnotists should use what's there. That's right. The kittens are so funny. You're laughing at the kittens as they play on the stairs. As they go up and down, you go down more and more. Maybe the kittens come with you. Maybe they go up the stairs. Doesn't matter. You drop deeper into trance, etc. But as a subject, you should know that if your goal is to go into trance, that whatever else happens, again, unless it's an emergency, isn't important. Is absolutely not important at all. Oh, yeah. Sorry. My ice, yeah, it can be loud. If I pour a big bowl of ice cubes, because sometimes I need them for something, the sound is overwhelming, and I can totally hear it in here as well, even because this is next to it's the room next to the kitchen, and there's no divider. It's a big open space. So thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. I am always happy to read your comments. I'm always happy to do other things. If you want to do something specific, leave a comment in this video and I'll check it for next week. And I hope you have a good time. If you are not yet awake and you really want to be, I'm going to count to 10 again. If you are staying in trance and you want to go deeper into trance, this is one last chance to hear my voice telling you to go deeper. But in the meantime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, wide awake. And let your head just clear and let the fuzzies go away. So, thank you for being here this week, folks. I have a great time every time I talk to you. And I will see you next Sunday. I think it's next Sunday. I'm really great with dates and things, but I believe next Sunday I'm going to be out in Vegas for HypnoThoughts. So we'll see if I learn any more hypnosis-y things that are brand new to bring back to you guys. I might take a lunch break and stream. I don't know yet. That will be a horrible mic. I'm just letting you know because I'm only bringing my laptop and not any other gear with me. But so next week I'm going to be out in Vegas at HypnoThoughts. If you're going to be there, let's get up together and say hi. And let's see what happens. We'll talk about hypnosis next week, and I don't know if we'll do any unless I discover some cool new technique that I want to share with everybody. And otherwise, have a great week. I might see you next week. If I don't, come back the week after that. Bye, folks.